Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Wax. Wax's podcast, episode 91. Getting up there. If you were 91 years old, you would be considered old as shit and lucky to be alive. That's how long this podcast has been going. My podcast, if it was years, you'd be officially lucky as shit to be alive. And undoubtedly, I won't live that long because I listened to a recent podcast I did. And since I've been using this handheld mic, I feel like you can really notice that I'm a cigarette smoker, or it's just the way that the compression picks up the little noises I make with my mouth. Shit like, and like the heavy breathing. So I'm trying a different technique. I turned the gain up and I'm actually holding the mic a little bit further away. Maybe it won't be so asthmatic. Because I feel like, I like this, I feel like I'm talking louder, so maybe this will make it more fun. Maybe today's podcast will be more fun and up-tempo, uplifting, optimistic. How you guys doing? Life's good? My life's great. Life is always great because I'm an optimist. Sitting here drinking a glass of water. Gosh, how am I going to finish all this when it's so full? Ha ha! No, I don't want to sound like I have asthma. No offense to those of you who do have asthma. Nothing wrong with that. Asthma actually affects 2.7 out of 16 Americans. Different varying degrees of asthma that people have. Some's bad, some's not so bad. Some people have small asthma. Some people have large asthma. Some people have pancreatic asthma. Some people have carnivorous asthma, cancerous asthma, and the worst, death asthma. Yes. Instant death asthma. As soon as you breathe, you die. That's a horrible disease. Anywho, you just heard the Wax's podcast jingle by the one, the only J Cub. J Cubs used to play in my band back in the day, my band McGregor. It was a bunch of us in the band. I'm not going to try to name all the members because what happened last time I did that is the one person I forgot was J Cub. And I essentially Hollywooded him out of the band with my years of memory loss and just forgetting of everybody that I've ever known in my life because I'm just a self-absorbed Hollywood dickhead, for lack of a better word. But that said, I would like to wish J Cub, if you are listening to this, which you may be, congratulations to you. If you guys out there don't know, J Cubs just recently got married. That was the sound of me jerking off, not clapping my hand. Jerking off. I was jerking off to something else, an unrelated thing. No, J Cubs got married, so congratulations to you, Jake, and your beautiful wife. I hope that you guys live. Now I feel like I'm about to make a best man speech. I hope you guys live happily ever after. I remember when me and J Cub went to Vegas in 1964. I don't know, man. I wasn't even alive in 1964. But if I was, I would have liked to go to Vegas. I bet you Vegas was crazy as shit in 1964. That was back when it really was the Wild Wild West, y'all. Before all these Donald Trump-esque fellows moved on in and just think that they own the land and own all the world. You got to take all the resources, take everybody's money, and put it in your own pocket for the sake of your own enrichment. Not mentally, not spiritually, only financially. Back then, it was just, people told you what they were. They were fucking outlaws. They were criminals. They tried to hide it from the law, but they knew damn well they were criminals. Nowadays, somebody just acts like they're a fucking businessman to be cherished and honored, when in reality, they're moving in and taking all the resources. They put up a casino so all the local peasants can go give what fucking little scraps they would have used to pay their gas bills and books for their children right on the crap table, appropriately titled. Appropriately titled table, if I do say so myself. I think that's one of the problems with our world today. I think that we've gotten to a point where we don't realize how fucked up shit is because shit is the way it is. It wasn't till recently, if you consider the whole history of humankind, it wasn't till recently that people even thought that they could own land. People thought that there was the world, and they lived on the world. How the fuck do you own a piece of the world? It's just some shit that was there before you were even there, and now you say it's yours? But we grew up thinking that that was normal. We grew up thinking that people who own a bunch of area of the world have been doing it right. When in reality, you walk around and see the places of the world where the most people have claimed ownership, aka the cities, are the dirtiest. They have the least grass and nature, trees. The water has to be pumped in from somewhere that hasn't been populated yet. But still, our politicians talk about growth. The big goal is growth. Get more, make more, all that. And I think that it's very clear that imminent doom is on the horizon. But I don't think that people give a fuck, because the horizon, if you were to look out at that hypothetical horizon as if it was a metaphorical ocean and you were on a beach, if you looked out and saw that horizon of imminent doom, you would see a horizon that was actually before that. It would still be in the ocean, not quite at the horizon line yet, and that line, which would maybe be a wave, a person surfing, a buoy, something like that, that would represent the time that you die. So I guess people don't really give a shit. And I don't think it's because they're evil. I think that they just think, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. But much like in some of the documentaries I've watched on Netflix, I believe that people 100 years from now or whatever, 200 years from now especially, but even 100 years from now, I think they're going to look back at our generation, the 1900s and early 2000s, and they're going to be like, what the fuck were these people thinking? We had this amazing resource, which is oil, and instead of like using it sparingly and saving it, we just used it however we wanted to. People got Hummers driving down the street, burning shit. Huge military industrial complex completely powered by oil. Our entire agricultural system would fall apart if it wasn't for oil. I think it's basically like just like a basketball game. You don't like use a bunch of timeouts and really think about how much time is left on the clock until the end of the fourth quarter. I think it's the same exact thing as that, Time equals the oil and just energy in general, and food source and water, clean drinking water. I don't know why I'm talking about this, y'all. I don't know what's gotten into me today, but that's the subject that shows. I guess that's what your marriage reminded me of, Jay Cubs. You getting married reminded me of the end of the world. And it is the end of the world, symbolically. Your world of being single. No more nights of threesomes and cocaine that you were pretty much used to for your earlier life. A weekly occurrence would be several women, orgies, rampant drug use and sexual, what's that word I'm looking for? The fucking chick had a song, promiscuousness or promiscuosity. Which way would you say promiscuous if you were to say it in that tense? Promiscuosity or promiscuousness? I don't know. But it doesn't really matter at this point for Jay Cubs. He'll never find out again. He used to be in a rock band, y'all. A rock and roll. Well, it wasn't completely rock and roll. We called it, it's like rock and funk and hip hop. We didn't actually live any kind of rock star type of lifestyle anyway. I mean, we did okay, We definitely did the drinking aspect of it. We definitely did that. We definitely went to seedy strip clubs while on tour all the time. remember there was a strip club. Did I ever talk about, there used to be a strip club. Shout out to my boy Kurt B, who's from Akron. Shout out to my boy, I know he doesn't listen to this podcast, but the homie Jazz Naz T, everybody I know in Akron, there used to be a strip club there called Touch of Class. I don't think it exists anymore. Kurt B said it's no longer with us. But yeah, every time my band would play a show in Cleveland, we always did shows in Cleveland. For some reason, people liked us up there. And we'd occasionally do shows in the nearby, sorta Cleveland area, places such as Kent and Akron. And every time we did, we'd go to the strip club, A Touch of Class. Not because it was nice, not because it was like one of those awesome strip clubs in Atlanta where it's all big, or strip clubs in Vegas, New York City. No. This place was a shithole, and you could get a Budweiser for $2, and you could get a lap dance for $5. And there was just something beautiful about it, man. It was a real step outside of reality. Like, whatever was going on outside, you'd be inside there, and it was just dark as shit, cheap beer, you had a lap dance. It's kind of nice that it was just like a regular bar that had like a little strip area to it, and the girls that stripped there, it wasn't like when you go to Vegas and like the girl comes to you like talking to you, trying to get your money, and you're just like kind of like, I don't really feel like having a small talk conversation with you right now. Like, these chicks were actually down to earth and like cool to talk to, and then they give you a cheap lap dance or whatever. It was just a bar that happened to be a strip club, and it was aptly titled A Touch of Class because it was just a touch of class. It wasn't classy at all. If you took a place that was the exact opposite of classy, and if that place was a gallon jug of whatever adjective that is, what's the opposite of classy? Like, fucking scummy? I don't know, scummy. But then you just added a little droplet of class, and it just fizzled through. Like, if your class was like red, a drop of red food coloring, and that whole scummy gallon turned light pink. That was exactly what that bar was like. So R.I.P. to that. R.I.P. to your single life, J Cubs. But you know, you get older, you get married, and there's nothing wrong with that. You meet the woman you love. I'm all about it, man. Monogamy up. You know, monogamy up. What's the opposite of what is the opposite of monogamy? I mean, obviously it's being single, being with multiple people, but is there a word for that? I mean, polygamy, but that's not like just singleness. That's just being married to a bunch of people. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why don't you just be with them? Why you gotta marry them? But speaking of marriage, gay marriage. That was me clapping. That's funny. Anybody who understands why that's fun. But gay marriage was made legal this week. Legal in the Supreme Court. So I don't know exactly the steps that all the states have to take now, but from my understanding, the Supreme Court made it legal. So now wherever the fuck you are, if you go to a courthouse, not a church. The church can, I guess, do whatever they want. They're a church. But if you go to the courthouse, you can get married if you're gay. And you know what? I'm all for it. I think if you have something against gay marriage, I've heard a couple arguments about it, and if it's not the argument of like basically Jesus or Muhammad or whatever religion you are, if it's not a completely argument based on a chapter in a religious book, the only arguments I've heard are pretty flawed arguments. You know, people say that it fucks up the sanctity of marriage. To them, I say, why aren't you outside of the show Bachelor? I've talked about this on the podcast before. I've made this point before, but if you're saying that it fucks up the sanctity of marriage, like there's reality shows where people are getting married based on a reality show. Why aren't you protesting outside of those shows? To me, that's way worse for the sanctity of marriage than two gay people that love each other getting married. The average gay couple that loves each other so they get married has a much better chance of not getting divorced, I would say, than somebody that got married on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. As a matter of fact, Flavor of Love or whatever. As a matter of fact, I bet you if you did the research, there's never been somebody from that show that stayed married. So I think that you should be outside protesting that, or maybe even, I keep in mind, I have no problem with any of this shit. Like marriage, schmarriage, it's just a piece of paper, whatever. But, maybe you should be outside of the little chapels in Vegas where people meet one night and get married. Maybe you should, and then they get it annulled 36 hours later. Isn't that bigger against the sanctity of marriage than gay people getting married? And the only other argument I've heard besides that is like, what's next? You're going to marry your dog? And I just think that's ridiculous. The reason so being that's an animal, not a person. I think when we're talking about animals, I think it's a different ball game. So, two consenting adult human beings should really be able to do whatever they want if it's not hurting somebody else. There's still states where I think that sodomy is illegal. And I think it's kind of ridiculous if you consent to it. I guess there has to be limits on that. Like, what if I told my girlfriend, I was like, shoot me in the face, and she did it? And like, does she not get in trouble? Like, if she recorded me telling her to do it because it was consensual? I don't know. There must have to be limits, so maybe I shouldn't be a politician. I would have got argued right into a corner on that one. Yeah. Other issue going around. It was 2 weeks ago, I guess. Sorry for not doing a podcast last week, y'all. But why do I even apologize still? You guys know I'm lazy. You know I'm irresponsible. Been working. I've been shooting music videos. My album is done. My album is completely done. Mixed, mastered, all that shit. It's done. You could listen to it right now. I could fucking email it to you right now. But I can't. It's not out yet because I'm still working on the artwork. And I want to have some merchandise. Trying to put it out properly. You know what I mean? So, my bad on that, y'all. The shit's done, though. So I'm working on the next one. And promotional stuff for this one. Hopefully this one will do well, man. There's a song on there that actually has potential to be a kind of like a big song. But, what the fuck do I know about stuff like that? The other big issue was the Confederate flag. For you guys that aren't in the good old US of A, the Confederate flag was a flag that was used by the South in the Civil War. And the South fought the North, and the South was where slavery was still legal. And, there was a couple other issues, but if you really look at the manifestos, if you really look at the war declarations, you look at what the state of Mississippi, the state of South Carolina actually said in their decree of war, it was fucking based on slavery. That's what the main focus of the war was. And the Confederate flag was the flag of the side of the South. And a lot of people in the South still fly that flag, even though they lost the war in the late 1800s, which was over 100 fucking years ago. So a lot of people view that flag as a racist flag. And considering the incident that happened in South Carolina a couple weeks ago where a guy went into a black church and shot 9 people dead, it kind of re-raised that issue, pardon my pun, because they're trying to not raise the flag, whatever. So that was a thing in America, whether the Confederate flag should be flown at state buildings or not. And my opinion on the matter is, of course it should not be. You don't see the fucking swastika outside of German Capitol buildings, and that was way more recent. They lost. You lose the war, you don't get the flag. Now, if you want to fly the flag, if you want to fly any flag, Nazi flag included, if you want to fly that shit at your house, go right on ahead. That's what's beauty about America. Beauty about America is freedom of expression. But America is the side of the war that won. It was against slavery, and in my opinion, and the opinion of most people, slavery is bad. That is the general opinion, and I think the right opinion. So I don't see why we still wave a flag that promotes it. Granted, I think there's more important issues to deal with than a flag. I think you have the right to wave it at your fucking house if you want to wave it at your stupid house, but to have it on the state building as a sign of this weird sign of pride, which people say it's a sign of pride and heritage, but, The only arguments I can say for keeping it is people still have the cross. There's a lot of bad shit that they did. But, this is specifically bad. I don't know. It's a lot of problems in America, y'all. It kind of reminds me of like how the Redskins name, the Washington Redskins, the football team, has basically a racial slur as the name. But, of course, the problem is you get rid of the Confederate flag, you get rid of the racist name of the team mascot. This is really only the place where you start, because there's still high schools in the South all over the place that are named for Confederate generals. So you got to change that. There's a bunch of road names that are named for Confederate soldiers and whatnot. So I guess you got to change all that too. And it's just, it would lead to like just a lot of work, man. Just a lot of work in changing all this stuff. But I think the Confederate flag one is easy. Just take the fucking flag down. It's not rocket science. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is the only thing that I had written down on my phone that I wanted to talk about this week was, and this isn't even really a good thing to talk about because it's such a visual thing. It's such a had to be there, had to see it type of thing, but I'm going to give an attempt to explain it on today's episode of the podcast. So I live in North Hollywood, California, and on the same street as me is like a halfway house for like adults that I think some of them are recovering drug addicts. Some of them might just need to live in a group home situation. I think varying degrees of problems, whether it be mentally or addiction wise, but not enough so that like they can't live unsupervised and take care of themselves to a certain degree. But there's this one dude. He's probably like 65, and he's a super, super hippie looking dude. And he's constantly smiling. And every single day that I walk by that place, there's like a courtyard out front where a lot of cats hang out and smoke cigarettes and just talk and whatnot. They live at this place. But this guy sits outside with a guitar, and every time I walk by, he's playing his guitar and smiling. And he's kind of singing. He's just going, and he just moves he moves his left hand aimlessly back and forth, and he just plays the open strings. Like, he plays his guitar more than anybody I've ever seen play guitar, and he doesn't know how to play. He just strums the open strings. It sounds like this. It sounds like. Sorry, my guitar's out of tune, and his is actually more like this acoustic guitar back here. If I can't reach it right now with this microphone and headphones on. Hold on. I don't know how that sounded. But that's what he does every day. That's his thing, y'all. That's him doing his thing, and to you, I encourage you to do your thing. I encourage you to do your thing like he does his thing, and I'm going to do my thing, and my thing is shout-outs and questions. Hey. By the way, y'all, when I just did that little song kind of making fun of that guy that lives at the halfway house, I didn't mean anything by it. I just thought it was funny how he does that every day. I actually think it's a positive thing. I think it's awesome that he does it, and I actually envy every time I walk by him. I envy him, and I envy how much joy he gets from playing, even not knowing how to play. So shout out to him, and I hope I didn't sound like I was being mean right there, because I certainly didn't mean it that way. Let's do some shout-outs. We got Dree the Boss. Francis S. from the UK, who recommends 96 Fuckries. Fuckries. That is a song by JME. That's a grime song from the UK, and I watched the video. It's actually awesome. It's not as like hardcore grime and like the... It's more like a slow, almost, like a slow tempo beat with some distorted bass. It's dope. Emilio R. in Long Beach. We got Anthony W. way out in Michigan. Jesse W. I don't think there's any relation to Anthony W. They just have the same first initial of their last name, y'all. So don't get confused and think they're siblings, okay? Okay, if you were thinking they were siblings, I'm not saying they're not, but they probably aren't. Trevor R. We got Mike R. in Houston. And congrats to his son Ryan, who is now an Eagle Scout. Ryan. That was the official Eagle Scout chant. If you guys weren't familiar with that, that was made up by the Iroquois because I just wanted to honor them, much the way the Redskins did, with a racially insensitive joke or remark or mascot. That was my version of that. Since the July 4th is coming up, you got to do something racially insensitive towards the Native Americans. That's just how it works in this country, unfortunately. No, but for real, why am I saying shit like this week? I feel like I'm being insensitive. I feel like I'm being a bad guy this week. First, I'm clowning on Jay Cubs. I'm clowning on Southerners. Then I'm clowning on, what's the other thing I was talking about? People, homophobes. I'm sorry to homophobes. Nah, Mike R. in Houston, congrats to your son, man, who became an Eagle Scout. From what I hear, that's a very difficult task to accomplish. And congrats to you, Ryan. That's awesome. I'm sure that you will accomplish many things in life. I bet you, to be honest with you, y'all, I bet you if you went and looked at the rate of, like, general success and accomplishment in life amongst people who were Eagle Scouts, I bet you it actually would be, hold on, I got to answer this phone call. Hold on. Sorry about that. What the fuck was I talking about? Eagle Scouts? Oh yeah, I bet you if you did the numbers, ran the numbers, I bet you people that were in the Eagle Scouts versus people who weren't have a better percentage of just like general success and accomplishment. Probably like higher high school graduation rate, less incarceration rate, probably higher, what do you call it? Just fucking salary? I don't know. They're probably doing well, man. So hopefully you'll be one of them, Brian. And if I ever get in trouble, I'll hit you up. If I ever need to tie a specific type of knot, if I ever need to make a fire when I don't have enough supplies, if I ever need to know what I shouldn't eat when I'm out in nature, I will be hitting you up. All right, we got Troy from Texas, Luke from the UK, Jay Calhoun, we got EJP, we got Nick Dillinger and his girlfriend Melanie, shout out to y'all, Coop from Australia, Alex from Poland, Geronimo Skywolf, who recommends the rapper Daye Jack, DayejAck. We got Dre in Jersey and his band Living Time Machines. Shout out to Craig, way over in the UK. He's way over in the UK. Robert C., who recommends the rapper N.A. We got Ed from Chicago, who I think actually has a couple letters that he might have written that might get read on the podcast. Jared R., not to be confused with the Jared who used to star in the Subway commercials. Unless that is you. If it is, that's amazing. Send me a more detailed email about your life. Brandon from Connecticut. Philip S. We got David D. Chris M. TJL. We got Muho. Becca G. Silas R. MC Resign. That's REZINE. Resign. I guess that's what other rappers are supposed to do when they battle you. Or the punchline they would make when they battle you. Dizzy from Saskatchewan. And the one, the only, Nate the Plate. All right, BM Craze, shout out to you as well. BM Craze is in the Navy. BM Craze is somebody I've actually met personally here in Los Angeles. He used to do security at Sam Ash right there on Sunset. Real cool dude. And I think he's like 19 or 20. And as many 19 or 20-year-olds do, he joined the military, the Navy specifically, and he's been stationed in Japan. And BM Craze recommends the Japanese Fertility Festival in Kawasaki, Japan. And because of the way he recommended it in the email, I got curious. So I checked it out. And when I say I checked it out, I don't mean I went over there. I mean, I checked it out in the way that most people do now, meaning that I Googled it. And I'll probably never go to it. I should, though, man. I dream of going to Japan. Next time I get to have any kind of success that gets me some money, I'm going to go to fucking Japan, y'all. And if you think I'm lying, wait till podcast 160 or something like that. I'm going to be in motherfucking Japan. Yeah, so I looked at this Japanese Fertility Festival in Kawasaki, and it's like this crazy festival where it's almost like this like worshiping is a strong word, but like celebrating the penis. And they just have all these foods and shit they sell that they shape like penis. They have like parades and floats that are shaped like penises. I thought the shit was funny. And he said it was really amazing to be at. I would imagine that it'd be a good place to meet a chick, you know? She's already been dealing with penises all day. What's one more? You know what I mean? And BM Craze, man, props to you. He's out on the Pacific somewhere, riding around in a big-ass boat. My reply to him was, it seems like at this point in time, the Pacific is actually a relatively safe place to be as far as the military. So hopefully there won't be any wars or nothing to break out, man. Be safe out there for real. I didn't even mean that as a catchphrase. All right. Let me get a few quick ones from Ed from Chicago. I think Ed might have been just stoned or drunk one night. He hit me up with a couple random joints. Wax. Caitlyn Jenner is kind of hot for a 65-year-old man. Ed from Chicago. I'm reading that because I thought that was kind of interesting, because say what you will about Caitlyn Jenner, but if the end of the statement is for a 65-year-old man, I mean, you can't really argue with that, right? Like, for a 65-year-old man, yeah. I mean, I guess that depends what kind of hot you're talking about. I mean, if is maybe like when George Clooney's 65, maybe that'd be a more accurate way of saying that. I don't know. I don't really want to go further with this. Anyway, Ed from Chicago next writes, Wax. Sometimes whenever I eat M&Ms, I like how it's sometimes whenever. Like, sometimes whenever I eat M&Ms. Those are kind of two opposites right off the top, so I appreciate that, Ed. Sometimes, whenever I eat M&Ms, I like to hold 2 M&Ms in between my fingers and squeeze as hard as I can until one M&M cracks. I eat the cracked one, and the one that didn't crack becomes the champion. Then I grab another M&M and force it to compete with the champion in this deadly game of M&M gladiators. I do this until I run out of M&Ms, and when there is only one M&M left standing, I send a letter to M&M's brand with the champion M&M in it with a note attached that reads, "Please use this M&M for breeding purposes. Thanks, Ed from Chicago." Well, Ed, I think that is... I don't know. I just thought that was funny, man. I feel like that email is really something that you couldn't have possibly been completely sober to write. And considering the grammar that you used, I'm going to say that you were smoking a lot of weed, because it was still good grammar. You probably painstakingly put it together in that way. Your brain was not, sloppy. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like sharing that with you guys. I thought that was an interesting email from Ed. But, I feel like if you squeezed them together like that and one of them broke, I feel like over time that champion M&M would get weaker and weaker and weaker due to the heat from your hand, Due to the heat. I know it says melts in your mouth, not in your hand, but over time that candy shell, due to your finger heat, would at least weaken to some degree. So who knows? Maybe the champion is always going to be one that was kind of towards the end of the bag, and you might not actually be giving them the strongest M&M back. But even still, I mean, are they really going to use it for breeding purposes? Are they going to find the best male one and the best female one and just breed them together until we have just the strongest M&Ms? And 20 years from now, you can't even bite into an M&M. It feels like biting onto a bottle cap. A bottle cap that's made into a small ovular sphere. What kind of shape is an M&M? Like, it's not a sphere. It's not a cylinder. It's if you took a sphere and a cylinder and mixed them, that would be, it's like a rounded hockey puck. It's the shape of a flying saucer, kinda. It's like there's no official term for the shape that an M&M is, but does there really need to be, Mike? Thanks for the shout out. This is from Allison M in Boston. Thanks for the shout out in episode 90. I had to write in to bring my dietitian 2 cents to the table in regard to the brominated vegetable oil and Mountain Dew that you brought up in the same episode. Also, it's pronounced brominated instead of brominated. Okay. Brominated vegetable oil. It comes from the element bromine. Ah. Thank you, Allison M. We need a dietitian's input sometimes. BVO, I like how it now is acronym. BVO was a hot topic a year or so ago, and was considered controversial. Let me start that shit over again. BVO was a hot topic a year ago or so. Why can I? Damn, I'm becoming dyslexic, dude. BVO was a hot topic a year or so ago and was considered a controversial ingredient that many soda manufacturers use. It is used as an emulsifier to make sure that certain flavors are dispersed throughout the drink. It's controversial because consuming large amounts of it can be toxic. Jesus Christ, well, there's a lot of people out here that be consuming large amounts of Mountain Dew. So there's a lot of toxicity in some people's toxicity in their bodies. In the 1950s, the FDA labeled BVO as generally recognized as safe, quotes, for use as a food additive, but withdrew their status in the 1970s, making it as interim, which means that more studies needed to be done. But unfortunately, the studies haven't been done. Anyway, that was kind of rambling and useless information that you probably didn't want in the first place, but I figured I would let you know what I know on the topic. I hope you've recovered from the Kung Pao chicken-related coma you seem to be experiencing in that episode. I know you have phases where you kind of go in and out in terms of health kicks, but if you ever need some healthy eating advice, hit me up. Well, Allison, I don't think that I really, I decided to read this just based on the first paragraph. I don't even think I really read that second paragraph. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I will be hitting you up for some healthy eating advice. Matter of fact, hit me up on Twitter. Allison, at Big Wax. If you were on Twitter, I should have gave you, because I have another email that I actually check more than the Beats for Wax email I use for the podcast. That I should probably put you in touch with me, Allison. I really would like some healthy eating advice. I need to know. This is what I need to know. I need to know how to eat healthy constantly and the shit tastes good all the time. That's what I need to know. Because it just doesn't seem possible. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised to like butter. I was raised to like sugar. I was raised to like salt. I was raised to like fried chicken. How can I take the deliciousness that I get when I eat pizza covered in fried chicken? How can I take that deliciousness and put it into, and get that feeling out of something healthy? That's what I need to know. But anyways, yeah, I brought up this BVO thing, and I wanted to read this on the podcast because in the 1950s, the FDA said it was safe, and then in the 70s, they recalled it, but it's still in fucking Mountain Dew. You know? That's pretty ridiculous if you ask me. Pretty fucking ridiculous. And from the documentaries I've seen, the FDA, more so than any other government organization, is straight up in the pockets of corporate America. And what people don't realize is the cheese industry, the dairy industry, the cheese industry and the milk industry are all, under the umbrella of the dairy industry, but these guys are just as foul as some of the banking industries that we generally consider foul. You know what I'm saying? They have some crazy regulations in these food industries, and the people that head the FDA jump back and forth between heading the dairy industry and heading the FDA, and they writing the rules. And I think the American people, look, it's not good for the health of the children in America. So yeah, Watch out for that. I don't know, man. Mountain Dew is a crazy drink. Let's see. This next one is from Brian from ATL, Georgia, by way of Arnold, Maryland. Bruce Buffer voice. All right. This is from Brian. Most recent podcast was 89. This was podcast 89, not 90 that Allison was talking about. Was crazy relevant to me. As I mentioned in a previous email, I'm also interested in stand-up. This past week, I went to an amateur stand-up show in Atlanta, which is where I am living now. It was great. Everyone was hilarious. Just as a heads up, if you ever go national with stand-up, the Laughing Skull Lounge is a great small place to go. I'll keep that in mind, man. I'm honestly looking for that, y'all. I think I mentioned it on that podcast he's talking about, but eventually, I want to put a show together, man. I want to do something where and somebody emailed me about it. Did I not? Somebody emailed me about it. Maybe I didn't. You know what? I don't think that I included the homie's email. I can't remember who it was that sent it to me, but somebody sent me an email basically saying that me doing the kind of tour where I did stand-up and music in that environment, in that jazz club or stand-up club, like comedy club environment where there's tables and waitresses and you have a 2-drink minimum and you bring a date and you have fucking bar food or some of them you have nice food or whatever, but why would we look down upon that kind of show? Would you rather have a bunch of sweaty motherfuckers rubbing against each other and jumping up and down? I mean, I see the appeal of that too. I see the appeal of that, getting energy out. It's a Friday night. You've been working all week. Go and fucking blow off some steam. I totally see the appeal of that too, but I don't see anything wrong with doing a fucking laid-back show where you just go and have a good time with your friends. Sit down, relax. Just relax. It's like going to an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica versus going to like a let's do all the tourist shit in Europe or something, like where you're just up and at 'em all day, every day. Sometimes that's cool. Sometimes it's cool to just wake up late and sit in a hammock. You know what I mean? And I think that you see what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway, Laughing Skull Lounge is a great small place to go. That's a great name too, the Laughing Skull Lounge. But anyway, I wanted to mention that I am somewhat of a fan of Head PE. I say that because I have only heard 1 or 2 albums and about 10 songs. Jared Gomez is an amazing frontman. As I mentioned in a much older email, I love Fishbone and their frontman Angelo Moore. Yeah, he's a beast. He is a dude that is comparable as far as longevity goes. Clearly 2 different genres, but the same deal when it comes to staying with the original band and just rocking as long as they physically can. Anyway, just thought it was a great podcast. Hope all is well with you. Yeah, and another reason I wanted to read this email is because I agree, man. I think that it's, let's say you're a musician, there's certain parts where this won't hold true. It's harder if you're a certain type of musician. It's harder if you're a pop star. It's harder if you're in a boy band. It's harder if you're a chick and you're a model. But I think it's just not true to say that you can't keep doing it as... Whoa, what was that? Did that fuck up? No, this is still going, right? We heard a weird noise. I think it's just simply not true to say that you can't keep doing music for a long, long time. I mean, this dude that I mentioned in that... The reason that I had brought up Head PE in that podcast, if you didn't listen to it, Head PE is a band that started in the early 90s, maybe even the 80s, I don't know, but they were kind of popular in the early to mid 90s. And my boy Kurt, that plays bass for me, plays bass for Watsky, is now an official member of that band. And the lead singer is 51, and I went to his show, and he's just still rocking, dude. He's still killing it. And it just goes to show you that you can't let societal thoughts and the way that people kind of think affect you, because it's bullshit. Like this dude, just because this dude's 51, he can't play in an awesome rock band anymore? He can't go do what he loves to do? He didn't listen to that, and now he's doing that. And he also has a wife and kids at home, and everything's going well. So I just think that kind of shit is inspiring, man. I think it's cool. It's never... It's actually wrote this down one time when I was fucked up, but I was like, why do we think it's too late to have dreams? It's never too late to have dreams. You can always still have dreams. Maybe that's a fucking negative thing in some ways, but you have to be realistic in some ways. Like, I can't be a professional hockey player. I can't even ice skate. You know what I mean? That dream is done. If I ever have that dream, that's an unrealistic dream. But if you got skills and you got a dream and you got a will, never stop dreaming, bro. Never stop dreaming. It's like Journey said, don't stop believing. Anyway, this next one is from the almighty Jacques the Sock. Yo, Wax, this is Jacques the Sock, coming to you from the lavish location of the local dumpster. Because by the time you read this, the economy will have probably crashed and we'll be selling cats as delicacies for the top dollar. I love this guy. But maybe I'll have enough money to buy a CD player and listen to your new album. CD player, motherfucker. I guess we will be kind of going back as a society. My question is, have you ever worried much about what others think about you or see you as? And does that ever or should ever come into play as an artist? Much love, dude. I thought that was a really interesting question because, yeah, you have to have some type of concern about that, about the way others see you. I try to not do it too much because if I focused on that, I would never be happy with anything I did because you can't please everybody. But you have to kind of think about, if you're doing show business, if you're entertaining people, if that's what you want to do, if you're trying to be entertaining to others, you have to at least think about what somebody would think when they're looking at your product. And when I say product, I mean music or video or content or whatever. Content is better than product because I don't really look at it as a product, although some people do, and that's kind of what it is. I mean, motherfuckers buy it and shit. But for me, you have to think about it in some ways. You have to try to make it look cool. You have to try to make it look good. You have to make it look entertaining. As far as about what other people think of me, I mean, it's kind of interesting because take this podcast, for example. It's kind of answers yes and no to that same question because this podcast is kind of proof that I really don't care what other people think of me. But it's also the ultimate proof that I care what people think of me because for some reason I want people to listen to me talk like this. Granted, like I said in the past, a lot of this podcast is really more of a therapeutic thing for me to do, but I also want you guys to be entertained. I want you to be able to like get through your day better, get through your trafficy drive better, get through your shitty job that you don't like better, be entertained, laugh a couple times while you're there. So I guess I care what people think. I guess that's a really tough question. I don't even know if I'm answering that right because what others think about you. That's because I guess the other part of that question is like what other people think? Like, do people think you're what? I don't know. I guess the fact that I don't even really understand it too much, it kind of shows that I don't really care too much. I'm glad when people like it, and I try to not care or not focus attention on when people don't like what I do, because a lot of people don't. I kind of have this weird world where like I'm not popular like that. I'm not famous, so I don't have that many haters because I'm not popular enough to have that many haters. Granted, I've had a lot of people say negative shit about me, but I'm not, like, if I got more popular, I'd probably have more negative opinions on me. But I try not to dwell on the negative because people are always not going to like you. People are always going to not like what you do if you do entertainment. The best musicians, the best comedians, the best actors, the best writers, whatever. They all got people that hate them. People think they suck. People think they're whack. People think they're dumb. People think they're corny. People think they aren't funny. Shit like that. So you can't worry too much about that. But there's a basic level if you're doing entertainment shit where you kind of have to think about the way other people see you. I mean, it's part of what you're doing, you know? Like once you get to the level where you're making a music video, like, are you making it just to watch by yourself at your house? Because that would be pretty strange. You know, I understand the concept of making a song to listen to by yourself. but making a music video that you just watch by yourself of yourself singing your song or something like that, that you're pretty much automatically saying that you care what other people think about you once you shoot a music video. All right, this last one is from Timmy. I think this is kind of serious, actually. This is going to be a weird one. I've been listening to your music for at least 4 years now. We met once at a concert, and it's gotten to the point where you're the only artist on my iPod. Damn, man, that's crazy. Obviously, I'm not expecting anything. I'm not that naive most of the time, but I'm kind of without direction right now. And after a long time of studying your music and the way you speak and present yourself, as well as the ideas you present, man, I'm just saying I have no direction. I want to be dedicated to something and achieve actual self-fulfillment, and right now I have nothing. I'm 19 with no job, just finished a semester at community college with no plans of returning, and I want to make a change. I want music. It's all I think about pretty much every fucking minute of every day. But I just haven't made any moves to forward my life in that direction. I would love to hear anything you have to say or whatever. I'm sure I'm just another ignorant kid asking for something you can't provide, but like I said, I have nothing and therefore nothing to lose. I need a mentor. The type of music you create would be similar to what I imagine myself creating. But fuck it. In the end, I did too much thinking, and it's pretty obvious this is a shot in the dark. Probably doesn't even make sense. Either way, keep doing you, and I hope everything works out in the end for you. If you ended up reading this somehow, thanks for giving me the time of day. I just realized maybe you didn't want me to read that on the podcast, and I apologize. Maybe you wanted that to be a private thing. But I just wanted to talk about it on the podcast because, you know, this could go for anybody out there. If you're 19 years old and you feel like you don't have any direction, I think the best way to look at that is to not look at it as a negative thing. You know, most 19-year-olds don't really have a direction, and often when they do, they find that they might be going in the wrong direction, or they happily change directions later on in life. As far as you wanting to do music, I think you should give it a try, man. I think whatever you want to do, if you want to rap, if you want to produce, if you want to play guitar, and you don't really know what steps to take towards doing those things, talk to somebody you know who is doing them. If you don't know anybody who is doing them, Google somebody that's been doing it. You know, take steps towards doing it. Just take the steps, man. If you want to do something with your voice, like whether sing or rap, just start rapping along to stuff you like, singing along to stuff you like, and just try to improve and see if it's really something you want to do. If you want to perform, go to a local open mic night. If you want to play guitar, pick one up. If you can't afford a guitar, see if you can find somebody you know who has one and just take some time with it. It's just about time and patience, you know, and you have plenty of time. You're 19 years old. But mostly I want to say, man, if you feel like you don't have any direction, really people that are 19 don't necessarily have a lot of direction. And I think looking at it from somebody who's much older than you's perspective, dude, just be 19, man. Go work at a fucking pizza shop. Fucking move to the beach. Fucking work at a pizza place. Spend your night partying. Meet some girls. Like, go have fun, man. Just go be 19, dude. Don't worry about direction. I know you got some people in your life, your parents or whoever, your friends or your siblings or whoever it may be, trying to maybe even tell you that you're a loser or tell you ain't doing shit. But like 19-year-olds who are real focused on trying to be an adult, they're the ones that kind of have the bigger problem. I knew people like that, and they never really lived, man. They never really lived. They just never were 19. If you spend all your 20s thinking about what you're going to do in your 30s, you spend all your 30s about what you're going to do in your 40s, etc., you're just going to waste your youth, man. Just be young. Be 19. 19 is one of the greatest fucking ages you can possibly be. And it's not because you do or don't have a sense of direction. That's not why 19 is a great age. The reason 19 is a great age is precisely because you don't have a sense of direction. So I'm going to leave you guys with that this week. Wax's podcast. A little short, 54 minutes, 55 minutes. But hey, spend the next 5 minutes doing fucking whatever. Be safe out there.